4 simple messages, which is what I get. A, adapt the rules. So, yes, the existing multilateral rules have to be adopted, adjusted, tariff peaks have to be lowered, subsidies in farming has to be disciplined. That's a precondition. Whichever effort is done by business, by governments, if the system which governs international trade is not right, it won't work. So that's priority number 1, and that's what we are trying to do. Second, start preparing for the next negotiations, whatever timing, format it will take. NTBs will be much more, in my view, in the center of further negotiations, which means that in terms of training, for instance, a priority has to be given to that. If I have limited resources to train my people on trade issues, learning the detail of the agreement on goods and about the way tariffs work is not the essential, because that's something they will not have to cope with 10 or 20 years from now. They will have to cope with NTBs, regulatory barriers, standard certification system, and so on. 3, size matters a lot. Not least because under the role of market capitalism, the virtue of expanding international trade is in economies of scales and specialization. And in this field, size matters a lot. Now, it may matter less than it used to 50 years ago, and it may matter more than it will 50 years from now, notably thanks to technology. If you take a region which Patricia knows better than I do, if you take the Caribbean region, the handicap because of small, vulnerable Icelandic economies in international trade are less today than they were 50 years ago. But they nevertheless keep a sort of handicap as compared to much bigger and much more contiguous markets. So reaching this size effect is and remains crucial, whatever softening the huge technological changes we are witnessing will bring. And finally, coherence starts at home. I'm fine with whichever international initiative on policy coherence or on donors coherence, which is what we are trying to do with Aid for Trade. But the more you look into that, the more you refine this question, the more you're back to basics, which is that countries who have coherent policies do better than countries who do not have coherent policies. You cannot ask the international system, which is based on the notion that all these international organizations are member-driven, to create coherence if coherence doesn't drive the members. There is no way we have the legitimacy or the authority to invent coherence if our members are not coherent. It's as simple as that. And I think Aid for Trade will bring us even more than we are now on this ground. Take the problem of coordination of international donors' assistance on Aid for Trade. Where they have a problem of coordination is where the country's priorities are not clear and stable. Once countries' priorities are clear and stable, the only debate about donors is who does what. But it totally eliminates the debates among the donors on what's the right policy, which direction should be taken. This has to be settled at country level, country/regional level, because in many places on this planet there is an articulation between these two levels. But I think it's something which is extremely important, which is why there is a big issue in the international system, and we have to address it, and you have to help us addressing it, and a number of us are really pushing extremely hard on this, but this cannot be disconnected from domestic processes. There is a continuum there, and those of you who would love to get rid of politicians had better change their hopes, because at the end of the day, again, this is driven by politics. Rationality is great. If international trade was governed by rationality, you would not need a World Trade Organization. Most economists on this planet will tell you that unilateral trade opening is the best option for your country. There is a scientific consensus among rational people to do that. Economists do not run countries, and by the way, I think it's good. Politicians run them, and we need this continuum between what we do, what you do, and the political part of this planet. Don't take this as a handicap. On the contrary, try and mobilize energy from them. That would be my own advice. Thank you.